Hi, well, I'm Troy. We're with John's Manville here at the training center, and we're going to be flashing a B vent or a hot stack with a cone around it. What's typically difficult to do, or not difficult, more time consuming, because the diameter of the top part of this cone is smaller than the bottom. But first we're going to start out just as we would. Our field sheet is secured with screws and plates around the penetration. So I'm going to have to cover those with a target sheet. So I'm going to be 1.5 inches from my plate on both sides. That's how big my target needs to be on the outside. And then I'm going to take it past middle. So now when I come this way, I can tap onto this, and I need to be 1.5 inches past this plate, which is that. Okay, we always round our corners. Makes things look nice, as well as a lot of times if people don't even know a whole lot about roofing, but they see something lifted up on a corner, they usually pick at it. Even though it won't take water, they think it's an issue. So I'm going to come in here, make sure my outsides are good where I'm supposed to be. I'm 1.5 inches past the bottom plate. The outside of my cone is going to be from here to here. And then of course, here's the base of it. So I'm going to take out this section, but I'm going to be 1 inch inside my outs. Take the heat gun, we're going to warm it up, stretch it a little bit. By stretching it, it makes it a little bit more flexible. Of course, anytime you do a wrap, a field wrap on a penetration, it always has to be a 2-piece wrap, which means my target, which is what I'm making now, has to be 1 inch up, and you want to finish the field wrap back over the top, back down onto it, a minimum of 1/2 inch. Now again, I'm where I need to be, 1 inch up around my cone. I'm going to start underneath it, right at the 90, or the base of this thing, the base of the cone. And of course, if we have to and it's a little bit big, we can trim it. It's a minimum of 1 inch up. Okay, so I'm going to get both sides done at my 90. The reason you always want to start at your 90 when you're heat welding is because that's the hardest place for you to get your heat. Whenever I'm welding detail membrane, my heat gun is going to be, all welding is heat and pressure, so everybody's different. Another little trick too is if you stop, you're at your corner, that way when I bring my heat gun out all the way through, I won't get any wrinkles. Not that you couldn't do it the other way, but just makes it easier sometimes. And all welding is, again, is heat, pressure, and speed. I'm going to trim this a little bit. You like pretty. Okay, now I'm going to come to the other side. So again, now 1.5 inches past my plate. Marking my outs. And again, I'm going to cut it off 1.5 inches. We're going to go right at the 90 or the base of the cone again. Again, all welding is heat and pressure. So as long as you have both of them there, you're welding. Your T-joint, which is right here, is the Achilles heel of single ply. So without plugging up that T-joint, there will be potential for water to penetrate and come in. So what we do is we take a probe or the backside of a pair of scissors and you indent the membrane. You weld this membrane to this membrane right up against the step down. Now that's not the same as warming it up like this and putting a little mark in it. That's not doing anything. All it's doing is creasing your membrane. You're actually welding to this, to the bottom field membrane, right up against the step down. We are 1 inch up. Now we have to put our finish wrap. That's going to be a minimum of a 1/2 inch out. And anybody that's done this knows that most of the time you'd have to cut it taller, and then it will wrap around the base and you'll be skinnier up on top, and usually trim it when you're done. All right, so we've got our target sheet. The reason that I did it in 2 like a horseshoe is on old work or re-roofs, this is going to have a pipe, the hot pipe coming through the middle of it. The cone acts so it doesn't let the membrane come in contact with the hot pipe. So if it's connected, we can't drop a target over the top of it. That's why you have to do it in 2, which is usually more difficult to do. New work or new cones being put on the roof, when it's dropped down, I could have just cut out my target piece, cut out the hole smaller than my pipe, and then warmed it up, stretched it out a little bit, and stretched it all the way over. Either is acceptable. Now we're on our finish wrap that's going to be going around. But I'm not going to start on this side because when I started, it was down here. You always wanted to start on the downhill where the drain would be at. Water runs downhill. Think like a raindrop, you won't go wrong. Now is when I don't use a tape measure all that often, but this is one time that you do need it. So you're going to take the top diameter of your cone, which in my case is 5. Yeah, we'll call it 5 for, now we'll call it 5.5. 5.5. You're going to double it. So it's 5.5 times 2 plus 2. The top diameter times 2 plus 2. From a 90-degree angle, so I'm going to go 5.5 and 5.5 is 11, and I got to add 2 is 13. So from a right angle at 13, take my mark. Now I'm going to take the height of the cone, which on mine happens to be 6.5. So 6.5 plus 13 is 19.5. If you can't add, put 6.5 right there, bring it all the way back, and I'm right there right now. 19.5. It's going to be our wrap. And that'll be our wrap. Ooh, nice and pretty. Right now I've got a perfect wrap all the way around my cone. I have to turn it down onto the flat of the roof, a minimum of a 1/2 inch, but you always also want to drop the top of it down so I can get a band around it and some caulk. And then of course your hot stack is coming through. So in order to fan it on the flat, I'm going to warm it and stretch it before I wrap it around. Anytime you're using detail membrane and you're making a 3-dimensional angle or an angle change, take a quick minute to stretch out your membrane. It just makes it a heck of a lot easier for you to form it. You tell it what to do and it'll do it. Okay, a minimum of a 1/2 inch on the flat. Minimum, I stress. A minimum of a 1/2 inch on the flat. That's not to say that you can't go more, but the further you go on the flat, the harder it is to wrap. And of course, my seam is going to be on the back side of my cone here. So I get it positioned. And now I'm going to weld it right at my angle change again. Again, I've got a minimum of 1.5 inches on my overlap, a minimum of a 1/2 inch on my flat all the way around, and I'm good. Make everything look pretty. Take off my corner. Corners are for bus stops and stamps. We'll get rid of them. Weld inside out. And again, you got to make sure that you weld this side all the way around before you finish bringing this side. That's why I left this side open. Now I can go through and I can weld my wrap down. And once again, this side has to be welded all the way down and around before I bring this side through. Square this up a little bit, make it look nice. Make sure that you're nice and tight, 100% tight, and we're good.